Hello, hello. Welcome to the Thoughtful Age podcast. And today we have a very interesting guest whose name is Evan Shai. He's the founder and the CEO, and his background in tech, in different roles, positions. And I would give a word to him to introduce himself and tell about his experience, background, or like whatever is on top of your mind. Evan, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur for better or worse. My journey to the organization that I'm at now actually started when I was hiring folks coming out of Coding Temple, effectively a tech training platform. Was building a couple startups, ended up doing a tour of duty on the other side of the table at a venture firm called Vitamin Capital, where it's helping pre-seed and seed stage companies raise capital. We're investing in those companies as well, everything from robotics to quantum to primarily software programs. So that was fun as it learned a lot from other people's journey and got to see a lot of different business models and think really deeply about a lot of complex problems without all the pain sometimes that comes with entrepreneurship, being able to have weekends and all that good stuff. But ultimately, getting back in the operator seat, it was just, I'm an operator at heart, so it just kind of pulled me back into the ring, if you will. um, and one of the kind of insights that was clear across all of the companies that I was working with and investing in at Vitamin Capital was just that we are very clearly driving towards a world where both, people and companies are going to need new capabilities in order to both earn a living and compete in the marketplace. And as I started to kind of evaluate the different solutions out there that were, well positioned to address that challenge, it seemed like there was a bit of a gap in the market and there was an opportunity. So I stepped in as CEO of Coding Temple, and we've doubled the business since then. And just recently, we acquired two other companies, both App Academy and HTD Talent. To kind of summarize for everyone what these businesses do real quick. Uh, Both Coding Temple and App Academy were two of the top tech bootcamps in the country. Between them train several thousand people every year in AI, data, cyber, software, QA. HTD brings 20 years of enterprise technical staffing experience, so large enterprise clients, EY, Selective Insurance, Bank of America, and together, we have built kind of a new solution that's really designed to improve the capability of organizations. So we've been rocking and rolling ever since. The team's, almost 100 now, I think, strong.
Yeah,
It's been an interesting time.
that's impressive. Impressive career. And I believe you've seen a lot throughout these years and while working in different companies. The big part of my career also went in the software consulting companies. So I was doing a lot like even before moving to US, I was working a lot with the US clients and uh, like what the consulting software consulting looks like from the very heart of it. So it was the different positions as well, and seeing that from within and from outside, like from my current position and role. And as we're talking about the software consulting, as you mentioned, as you're an operator now, I've seen you was also posting about this H1 visa increasing fee, which I believe is a disaster for the whole industry, because like H1B is the source of very great and amazing talents in the US, and it was fueling the whole tech industry for years and for decades. And now they decided to abruptly like change the rules and like increase this fee to one 100,000 case, which is like I believe pretty big number. And
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder if there are any company who'd be willing to pay this money. What's your opinion?
Look, I think, the objective, maybe, although, logical in terms of trying to, uh, you know, protect or bolster or fortify entry level opportunities for U.S. based citizens. I think the consequences and ramifications here of this new policy could be very, very impactful, and I think could be, yeah, very consequential and a huge burden for a lot of companies. So I think it's like a lot of things with politics. There's a really challenging problem that is important to a lot of people to address, but there is a very imperfect set of solutions at addressing it. Um, I certainly like just, I guess, the other side of the coin, as you can imagine, we see kind of, on the front lines, the entry level talent. So folks coming out of, college universities or boot camps for that matter have really struggled to, compete with offshore talent and solutions. Um, so, maybe that'll present or, amplify some of the opportunities for those folks. But again, I think really critically to your point, it has been so important just culturally even, but also for growing companies to be able to access the best talent wherever that talent is. And I think that's an important part of a healthy and robust ecosystem.
Will you say that that might even incentivize people to reduce investments here in the US and just move more jobs, like in tech specifically, from the nearshore, offshore, whatever other countries or markets?
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I could see it actually. um, Yeah, incentivizing a kind of binary or a bifurcation of extremes, right? Like just actually investing further in offshore, onshore type of option or offshore options. Um, but then for certain roles and maybe even some companies who are, have ample cash, they'd probably still be willing to pay the fee for some folks. But it'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out.
No, no.
You know?
It's interesting times we live in,
Yeah.
but
When you were in software development, the team that you were working with and leading, primarily onshore, offshore, what did the makeup look like?
it's a mix.
Okay,
It's a mix, like hybrid model. We have some people here,
sense.
different cities in US, few people here in Bay Area, New York. We have some representation in Chicago as well, by the way.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then, yeah, few offshore locations as well. So I believe it's still to be decided, like what would be our way forward, and what would be a strategy for us as well. So with
Sure.
still a lot of uncertainty that matter. And uh, switching gear a little bit, and let's talk about the entrepreneurships and the startups and stuff. I've seen in your profile that you were part of Techstars at some point.
I
And
was.
yeah, I participated in some Techstars events too. I was once invited as a mentor to some of their events. It was a hackathon or something. That was really fun. Could you please tell me about your experience?
Yeah, yeah. So, as I alluded to, I've been an entrepreneur my entire career, and primarily those first, several startups were bootstrapped startups, and that's a whole different experience than going the venture path. I would encourage anyone who, is serious or at least has a serious intent of being an entrepreneur in their career to move quickly, especially when they're young, into some kind of like venture-backed startup experience. I think the learning process, both the depth and the velocity with which you're learning, is just so much more intense. And you're surrounded, really, smart minds, and the kind of pressure, cooker that experience is, I think, is really formidable and valuable for folks going through it. So I would have done that earlier. I ended up doing that later after I had several startups at that point. Um, The bootstrapping is nice because you're in control of your own destiny. You can build a profitable business, but it can be a really hard grind on the way there. Venture, it's like all or nothing. And to your specific question, Techstars and YC, a couple of these like well-known accelerators, I think they do a really good job of creating this cohort community like experience, which I think is important. And you're meeting other like minds and, learning from peers, etc., taking you through a very, very intense experience. And then ultimately, raising capital and launching you into the real world, if you will. That was really valuable, and the network that was provided. That was probably the most valuable part of the experience, is the network that is unlocked and what that meant for future opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree on that. I would agree
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
And I believe like if you're in tech, like you would rather experience both sides, right? The corporate and the startup life, they might seem similar, but they are totally different and completely different requirements, expectations, and
totally.
everything that you build like is has a different value as well, different scale too, and different challenges, not only technical but different people challenges.
Sure, sure.
Uh, uh,
There are things you can learn in like a corporate environment that you can't learn and vice versa, of course, right? But I think to your point, there's probably a really, especially early in your career, there's a good opportunity to see what good looks like, and and see have mentors and people that you can look up to that have been doing it a while, and see what a code base and tech infrastructure looks like across a large organization. There's probably really good, valuable insight and perspective that comes from that. And then again, the startup experience is something different, which is also important. You could also see which one you end up gravitating towards better as well as a career.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you already mentioned some learning lessons from being a part of a Techstars. What would you say was your most valuable insight from the startup life?
Cool. There's a couple important ones, probably. One would be, I fundamentally underestimated how important like finding the right tailwinds in a market are. And, there's a bunch of classic quotes from, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. It's like, you could have an exceptional team, exceptional team meets a bad market, and it's the bad market that maintains its reputation. I think just seeing how hard, like achieving success in a startup is challenging in any circumstance, but you put really strong headwinds from a market that just isn't great, or it's contracting, or the buyer dynamics or economic dynamics are not favorable. And it's just like, chewing glass and looking into the abyss, as Elon would say. And then fortunately, conversely, I've seen tailwinds, and it's amazing what you can get away with, when you are in the right market and
Yeah,
able to,
the
it's
right
it's
time.
amazing.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. And then one other thing, which I could not impress on people enough, is I fundamentally underestimated the impact of working with the best possible people, and just how important that is. Um, if I were to do it over again, I'd be indexing as hard as possible earlier on in my career about being surrounded by the smartest, brightest people I could find. And maybe that meant, to your previous statement, maybe that meant joining a corporate or something like that at first. Um, Whatever that path was, though, it would be surrounding myself with the best possible people.
No, makes sense. Especially like I like this saying, which is about like I don't want to be in the room the smartest person. Like I want someone to be able to tell me something new, like to teach me something, to show me some shortcuts. You know.
Totally, totally. And so valuable. It's so, but you could learn it the hard way, or you could learn
Exactly.
from other
You can
people's
spend
experience.
years just like bumping your head like
Oh,
the
so
same
true.
mistakes over and over again until someone will show you, oh, you know
It's
what?
like,
Like this small little thing which changes everything.
oh, it is so true. I mean, even today, what we're describing happens in different levels, if you will. And, of course, I've had a lot more experience at this point than I did earlier. But even still, we just formed an exceptional board, folks who have even more experience than me and have done incredible things. And, they'll still say something in passing that it would have taken me months to learn and investigate, and they say it in passing, and it just kind of has an unlock for us. It's just so important to have those types of people around if you can.
Absolutely, it's so true. Like in every area of our life, I recently started to work with the trainer. Like I've discovered that I was doing like 99% of the machines I used at the gym. I was doing this like not right, not in the right way, not engaging the right muscles, not doing the right technique.
Oh my
And
gosh.
once I started to like improve and correct them, like I really felt the difference. I started feeling better. Like I started enjoying my workout much more than I used to. So,
I feel like it's such a good metaphor for life. I've always been a really hard worker, and I've tried to work smart. But exactly like you just articulated, like I could be running around the machines in the gym or in life and being very active but not making a lot of progress, and it's like having the people that we're talking about around you shows you how to use the right machine and engage the right muscles so that you're getting maximum leverage and impact, and I think the same is true in business.
yeah, yeah. And as you previously mentioned about the tailwind and having the right skill at the right time. I have few friends who were in AI space before the open AI came out. They were doing not maybe like LLMs, but they were still doing some mathematical modeling. They were doing some machine learning. They were doing stuff, and they were in this space before all the hype started. And when the hype started, they were just riding this wave all the way up and
Totally.
enjoying all of that because they already had a foundation that let them like thrive and like just go with that hype up and up and up.
Exactly. Yep.
So talking about AI and software, and we already see how it is disrupting the whole industry. Software
Totally.
consulting, I feel, is the most impacted. Tech jobs are impacted as well. Like a lot of uncertainty, layoffs after the layoffs in the big tech as well. I was recently reading some articles saying that in Seattle, after another like layoff round at Amazon, software engineers are now applying at barista jobs,
Oh wow.
drivers
Wow.
jobs, and stuff like that. That's insane what's happening. Like,
It
what
is
what do you think?
incredible. Yeah, look, this one does feel different, although we have seen, paradigm shifts or platform shifts in the past, and I think historically it has created new jobs and opportunities that were maybe hard to imagine prior to the shift actually taking place, or maybe even more accurately, prior to that shift being kind of realized and appreciated in people's lives. I think the same will be true here, although again, it does feel a little bit more extreme. But ultimately, I see AI certainly in the near term as being, net and amplifier of our role. It's going to make us more productive. I mean, we see this all the time internally. Um, I think the jobs that treat humans like robots, the more kind of robotic that your workflows and kind of daily tasks are, the sooner a robot or AI is going to replace those functions. I think that's kind of like a useful mental model way of thinking about it. I think it's going to push the most economically valuable jobs that people do kind of up on the capability spectrum in terms of kind of more strategic, more
Creative,
collaborative.
more like, yeah, more collaborative, more like communication, more people talking to people.
Exactly, exactly. That feels like an intuitive kind of first principled, trajectory that seems clear. To what extent we'll see. I think there's a lot of shifts happening. Uh, I think I was just talking to someone about this. I think maybe not for you, but for we are probably very kind of in the weeds, immersed in this space, hearing and learning about this and all the incredible changes that are happening. I think there are a lot of people that are underestimating how big this change could ultimately be, and a lot of people overestimating it, but a lot of people underestimating it. What I would encourage everyone to do is be leveraging these tools and try to be on the forefront and experimenting and applying them so that uh, they are able to ride this wave, hopefully.
No, but on the other hand, like I started to see different reports and research papers around how AI is actually decreasing the performance in some
Yeah,
certain situations, in certain cases, and people might start spending more time on reviewing the output of the AI, trying to fix it and trying to present the data in like some more meaningful way. Because the recent article I was reading, they were looking at they were analyzing some company workflow, and they realized that usually AI produces so high level and superficial output that it doesn't contain any like particular numbers. It doesn't contain any like particular advice. It's all high level. It's all very generic. Like it could be applied everywhere. And people started to being annoyed of that, and because they need to spend time of analyzing those reports and like seeing whatever could be improved or rephrased or some any particular data added to make that report bearing any like minimal meaning.
totally. I've read similar things, and it feels plausible to me, and I could see that. I could see it even firsthand experience as well as other people's experience, where you are spending more time on the kind of editing process, and maybe the net effect of that is actually more time to execute or complete a specific task. I do wonder, as the tools get better with the output, more precise with the output, more accurate, maybe more efficient with the output, and we get better and more efficient at the muscle of editing, is the net effect, ultimately still more efficient? Now, of course, I've just kind of articulated at least two different dependencies that are required in order to get there. But again, it feels plausible to see how we get there. But that's even just at the individual level. In terms of productivity across an organization, now you're talking additional levels of complexity, because it's not just about one individual's production. It's about how that productivity translates across multiple teams and different functions, and that's a whole nother ball game. So I don't know where we end up there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Maybe we should be getting better at writing better prompts, like uh, whatever prompt you write, you need to ensure that you define the persona that LLM should be acting for. You need to define the clear objectives. You need to define the guardrails. You need to define some limitations. You also, I learned recently, you also need to clearly define what it shouldn't be doing to
Yes.
just narrow it
Yes.
down to the problem that you're working on. And like I no, I personally found it very useful, but I'm very cautious about like using the results of that, especially for work. I prefer like double checking everything it says to me and looking at the sources as well. If it is
Yeah,
something,
totally.
if it is something crucial, and but it's still like amazing tool. Especially, it helps me to fight the fear of a blank page. Whatever, like,
Yeah, sure. Totally.
you want to come up with something like some message, some reports or whatever, but you don't know how to start. So you just say, okay, I have this problem. Give me the structure, and then like makes more easier to go on.
Yeah, I'm entirely with you. Writer's block shouldn't be shouldn't be an issue anymore. At least catalyzing the start of whatever you need to do. Um, I guess could be a negative consequence, as we're kind of alluding to, and certainly I've seen, is where you see people become like overwhelmingly dependent on the tool to where you're not getting kind of original thoughts anymore. You're just getting these kind of generic, overly architected documents. So it's like, yeah, a one pager of raw thoughts would have sufficed here, and in fact would have told me how you're actually thinking.
Yeah, maybe even a paragraph.
Yeah, 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 totally, totally. Even better, you know?
In some cases, in some
Yeah,
cases.
totally.
How would you envision like the future of software consulting? Like, as we have both kind of have very tight connections in.
Yeah, for the at least what here's what we're seeing. Um, we definitely have seen a decrease in the overall volume of demand for new people. So when it comes to like capacity building and building capacity in the way that large organizations have historically done that, i.e., hire more people and
Yeah.
junior people, et cetera, that is definitely been reduced. Where we're seeing the conversation, certainly the conversations we're a part of, is how can we get more out of the people that are there, and what can we do as an outside vendor or consultative partner do to help improve the capabilities of the people that are there. So for us, it's shifted much more into kind of higher leverage experts that we're embedding in teams, and then to some degree helping with some delivery support, to kind of augment existing teams, particularly if there's kind of skill gaps that those teams don't have. But one of the things that we do, it's called guided development, where we embed experts. We then those experts will ultimately train up the people on that team while shipping features on the backlog. So it's upskilling in the workflow instead of it being kind of some separate learning experience.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting transition from, yeah, as you mentioned, just give us more capacity, give us more
Right.
people, and
Right.
like let's hire like 10 people here, 10 here, and then we have a R&D office across the world, like in Colombia, in Europe, and whatever. From more deliberate approach of leveraging the existing talent by augmenting them with the new capabilities and AI and stuff. Yeah, and like in this era of like the whole industry disruption, I still see a lot of people are choosing to go to the colleges to learn the computer science, to dive deeper and still finish the education and training in that field. So, do you have any advice for them, like how they should proceed, how they should strategize their career, and what is the best choice for them?
That's a good question, a big question right now, because there's a growing population of smart, motivated people who just finished college and a computer science degree, or even in some cases, boot camp, and realize that the market, the employer market, has moved away from them. And all of a sudden, the kind of entry points into organizations are requiring things that they've really had no way historically of getting 3, 4 years of experience, right? I think without a doubt, there's going to need to be some type of, just in terms of like societally and the overall economy, there's going to need to be a bridge there. And, certainly one of the roles that we feel that we play is to be that experience engine. How can we create simulations of these enterprises and provide those truly enterprise grade simulations to these incredible folks so they can get those 3 years experience in a year, right? How can we do it faster and compress that experience? That's what we're doing about it. But the advice I would provide to those folks is quite simple. I would do everything that you can to start earning experience faster. Start building, build in public. I think a portfolio is going to speak volumes over,
Yeah,
credentials.
yeah.
So
That's the advice I always give to
yeah,
young people as well. Just go create something, like create the GitHub rep and start putting something out there just to demonstrate your talent and work. Yeah, that's very exciting. And as we're approaching the end of the interview, I have a last question as well. The advice for the entrepreneurs who are building stuff in this uncertain age.
yeah, things are moving very, very fast. There's no doubt about it, and it's hard to identify where the puck is going, if you will, and where value is going to accrue in this ecosystem. I think in moments like that, it's smart to really hone in on kind of a first principled approach of what are the things that you do know, what are the tailwinds that you do know that exist, or at least have a lot of conviction over. As I said before, spend some time trying to latch onto those tailwinds and identify a sharp, acute customer problem and validate that problem as early on in the journey as you possibly can. It'll make everything else a lot easier. So, tailwinds, identifying a really, really sharp problem that you can solve uniquely and hopefully do it in a differentiated way that lets you stand out in a noisy marketplace. And doing those things is going to help a lot of things downstream be a lot easier. Raising capital, building a team,
Mhm.
achieving success.
I see, I see. So, and they will, and if ever they will need hire someone in the tech space or have some talent, they can definitely come to you.
That's
Or,
right. That's right.
or they can come to me for the tech strategy alignment advice. I'm doing those kind of consulting as well.
Nice.
So, Evan Shai, thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
really interesting and inspiring conversation. And yeah, looking forward to having it promoted. And we'll post you a link to your social networks and description of the video. And any last words to the audience?
Just all the things that we said. I think the TLDR is work with really, really smart people. Find tailwinds where you can, and yeah, it's an exciting time. I think there's a lot of opportunity ahead of us.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.